Excellent.
All right, awesome. Well, on to today's topic. And I actually was going to cover this one in December, but then for whatever reason, the meeting didn't happen, or I think it was possibly only, maybe Stan and I were only available that morning. And we decided to postpone this topic to discuss with a bigger group. So before we get into that, let's do the Noble Goldman thing. Hang on, it helps if you use the right mouse. Because I have two mices on my desk at the moment here. What am I doing? That was clever. Now I just lost it. Hold on a minute. Reopen that. No, not that. That. Okay. Share screen. Sorry, I just pressed the wrong button and then it all went pear-shaped from there. So now, can we see the principles?
Yep.
Oh, good. Well, Glenn, you were on first, so you can be number 1. Veronica number 2, Stan number 3, and I'll be number 4. Let's go.
Okie mastermind principles. The purpose of the mastermind is to learn leadership, build teams, and create multiple sources of income together.
We are here to inspire and challenge each other to reach and exceed goals.
Each member is committed to their own success as well as the success of every member of the group.
We are committed to meeting in person or virtually for 1 hour every week.
We are present. There is no multitasking or distractions during meetings. Stan.
I'm present.
We are collaborative. We listen without interrupting, lecturing, or judging.
We celebrate each other's successes without jealousy.
We are honest and participate by giving thoughtful feedback.
We are open and listen to different perspectives without being defensive or offering excuses.
We trust fellow members enough to share fully.
We are focused, but we also think it's important to have fun during the meetings.
We are real and authentic. This is a no BS zone.
We allow ourselves to become completely aligned with each other in the high forces. One mind, one soul, one love.
Yay, awesome.
Yay.
Thank you very much. That's the formalities out of the way. So today's topic. Well, I thought about the topic of character, building character. And a famous quote, well, it was a famous quote that I hadn't heard until I looked up the topic of character this morning. And it's Martin Luther King Jr. said, intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. And in that little bit of research I did, I found a very interesting website actually with a company that specializes in school programs where they teach kids about character. And they did a bit of research and they came up with the 6 pillars of character are the core ethical values of this company, Character Counts, which I thought was interesting. So the 6 pillars that they identified were trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. So,
Can we have them again, please?
yeah, I might type it into the chat box as well. And
Don't do that.
so, trustworthiness, respect, responsibility. This is just their you know, what they've come up with. Fairness, caring, and citizenship. Yeah, so they talked about trustworthiness. I'll speed through this just to give you a quick overview of what they've come up with. Be honest in communications and actions. Don't deceive, cheat, or steal. Be reliable. Do what you say you'll do. Have the courage to do the right thing. Build a good reputation. Be loyal. Stand by your family, friends, and country. Keep your promises. Respect. Treat others with respect. And interestingly, follow the golden rule, which is something that we promote a lot with Noble Goldman. through the teachings of Napoleon Hill. Be tolerant and accepting of differences. Use good manners, not bad language. Be considerate of the feelings of others. Don't threaten, hit, or hurt anyone. Deal peacefully with anger, insults, and disagreements. Responsibility. Do what you're supposed to do. Plan ahead. Be diligent. Persevere. Do your best. Use self-control. Be self-disciplined. Think before you act. Be accountable for your words, actions, and attitudes. Set a good example for others. Choose a positive attitude. Make healthy choices. Fairness. Play by the rules. Take turns and share. Be open-minded. Listen to others. Don't take advantage of others. Don't blame others carelessly. Treat all people fairly. Caring. Be kind. Be compassionate. Show you care. Show empathy. Express gratitude. Forgive others and show mercy. Help people in need. Be charitable and altruistic. Citizenship. Do your share to make your home, school, community, and greater world better. Cooperate. Get involved in community affairs. Stay informed and vote. Be a good neighbour. Obey laws and rules. Respect authority. Protect the environment and volunteer. So very, very good things to aspire to, particularly for children, to set the foundation of code of conduct for life, I suppose. So which traits do you think, or do you believe, would someone possess to be described as being a good character? I'm just giving you a bit of a heads up there what somebody else thinks. Anything that resonated particularly with you out of the list, or something else that you'd like to add?
Do what you say you're going to do.
Yep. And that's in the 4 agreements. That's one of the agreements, isn't it? Don Miguel Ruiz books. Yep. And is that what you do, Veronica?
Yes. And probably the only thing that disappoints me with people is when they don't do that.
I certainly aim to do that as much as I can. I'm being human. There's always the occasional thing.
There's reasons. But
you know, you say you're going to phone somebody back or something, and then other stuff happens, and you know, oh, I didn't phone so and so back. But I was, yeah, certainly. I think particularly since reading that book too, you know, I think it was, what was it? Be true to your word. I think it said in the book was one of the traits. It's important, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, because otherwise you just don't know. And yeah, there are reasons why you can't do it all the time, but when people consistently don't follow through with what they say they're going to do, it's just, I don't waste my time with people like that anymore. That's how they want to live their life, but I'm not wasting my time on waiting for them to say, to do what they're not going to follow through.
Are you talking more so in with your accounting work, or your
a little bit of that, but no, mostly personal actually. I just have a lot of, I've gone through friends who have done that and they're no longer friends.
Yeah.
Because you can't rely on them. You can't, yeah.
Yeah. You give people a few strikes, you know, because everyone is human, and sometimes life does get in the way, but then if they keep on doing it, you think, well, yeah, it's
yeah. And sometimes, you know, if people have been doing it for, like there's a lady I've known for a long time, and she always was very integrous with how she was acting, and then all of a sudden things changed and she just was the exact opposite, and I didn't know what was going on. And I since found out, and I haven't, you know, I've tried to contact her since then, no response to any messages or anything. So I've just let that lie. And in the meantime, I found out that she's actually was having an affair and, you know, left her husband and of like 30 years or whatever. And yeah, so there's stuff going on with her which proved that she was no longer being acting as she, you know, says that she is acting. So yeah, something drastic happened.
Interesting.
Mm.
As my dad used to call them, and still does, gunners. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and nothing ever comes around. Yeah, used to annoy the Watsits out of me. Just as you were going through those, slightly different. It's when you started going through, the list of the characters, the first thing that sprung to my mind was the Boy Scout code of conduct. Now I was in Cubs.
Stole my thing.
I was in Cubs and Scouts for a little while, and it's just that just do your best to do everything to do the right thing. That's in general. That was it.
Yeah.
And that's what frustrates me when people have a total disregard for others in a lot of things, whether my main bugbear is driving the way people behave, parking where they shouldn't, thinking that their opinion is the one and only, and they are always right. And you just go, listen to other people's opinions. Maybe it might change what you're thinking and what you're doing. But yeah, it drives me mad. And I said I'd give you an answer, and have you got an answer? And then I learned when I started managing teams back here in Perth, or earlier than that back in London, it's like, you're going to give me an answer, but put a time on it. When are you going to do it? And that's just the management and the leadership thing, I suppose. And when you want to get it, and the same thing now when you're dealing with a telco, or you're dealing with a council, or you're dealing with someone in management somewhere. When are you going to give me an answer by? And try and hold them down to it, which is hard, really hard to do, especially when you're dealing with upper echelons of management in the corporate world. They just hide behind an email and go, "Oh, I can't give you an answer," and they just go. Maybe that's why I don't sit behind a desk anymore. Maybe that's why I don't spend too long in the office all the time. Yeah, just that. So Boy Scout thing just came screaming at me. I even Googled it. That's what I was doing on the side.
Yeah,
it's actually changed a little bit when I was a kid. I still talk about.
Are you looking at the new one or the old one?
It's supposed to be the new one, because now it's on my own. I would do my best to do my duty to God and to my country, which they can drop that for a while, didn't they? And to obey Scout law.
There's a new one.
So it carries on to say, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Now that last bit wasn't in there when I was doing it.
No, you look like you've picked up an American Boy Scout one. And
wow. Yeah. Doesn't say anything about politics.
Yeah. But they've changed it further than that, because the new Scout promise is, I can't even think of what it is, but it now just says, do my spiritual beliefs, or follow my spiritual beliefs.
Right.
They actually dropped the duty to God sort of stuff, but still help other people and live by the Scout law. And then they've changed the Scout law. It used to be 10 things. They've now kind of combined it into a little bit more, but it's a little bit like respect, resourcefulness, respect for self, respect for others, respect for environment. So it kind of encapsulates a lot of that sort of stuff that's still here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So far we've got sort of traits that we believe to describe someone as being of good character. We would say they would have to do what they say they're going to do their best, respect people, things, the environment, everything around you, everyone. Anything else? What about honesty or integrity?
Well, definitely that'll be in the
integrity.
Yeah. Any other traits that would resonate with you?
And it's funny, because nowadays, I remember when I first started doing martial arts and stuff, we had a rule with our group. If we said you were going somewhere, and that was kind of the day before everyone had mobile phones and stuff. But if you said we were meeting at Hungry Jack's for lunch, if you were more than like 10 minutes late, then you owed everybody a milkshake. If you were more than 20 minutes late, you bought lunch for everybody. Where nowadays it's like, oh, I'm 20 minutes away, but it's 5 minutes to when I'm supposed to be there. I just call on my mobile phone and say I'm going to be late. You're thinking, well, you actually probably knew you were going to be late like 20 minutes ago. Should have been walking out the door at 7:30 instead of what's now 8 o'clock.
Yeah, to be honest, that's something that I had to work on in myself. I used to be late, but it wasn't out of intentional disrespect to people, although that might have been the outcome. But it was out of optimism, of trying to think that I could fit too much into the time that I had available, and always taking on too many things at once, and then trying to run from one thing to the next. And then I wouldn't allow enough of a buffer time for anything that got in the way or went wrong at the last minute, you know. So I think that's something that over the years that I knew that about myself, and it's not a nice feeling if people start to label you as being late. My brother had a terrible reputation for it, you know, to the point where we used to, if the family get together was at 1, we'd tell him it was at 12 because we knew he'd be an hour late, you know. He'd turn up half 1 or 2, you know.
Not our family, only my sister-in-law.
Yeah, so that was about. Whereas my parents, we don't know where he got it from, because my parents were the complete opposite. If you said to them 1, they'd be there at 12:30. You know, they'd turn up before you were ready for them. Sometimes, you know, that was but that was the military training of my father. You know, being in the Air Force for years, and if you were due on parade ground at a certain time, you better be there. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that echoes in our family as well. My dad was the way he did national service, but mum and dad were always on time, 15, 20 minutes early. And now when we invite them for lunch, we tell them a certain time because we know they're going to be early. So we tell them a little bit later because we know they're going to rock up a lot earlier when we're probably not ready.
Yeah.
But there was also a very close friends of the family. They were always late. And you'd have to tell them half an hour earlier because they would always be running late. But what Stan was saying, I think, is people will, oh, look, it's too easy to pick up your phone, in your car phone, and just say, oh, I'm going to be late. And the amount of times I've had people make arrangements, and then at the last moment, when you've got tickets, maybe sometimes as well, oh, no, can't do it now. And you go, hang on a minute, you committed to this 6 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever else. And now, unless you've lost an arm or there's an accident or there's an emergency in the family, you just decide you don't feel like going and you don't rock up. And my daughter, you know, Charlotte's 29, she sees that a lot within her mates, is that guys won't commit. And if they have a group of people coming together, they really want people to have skin in the game. Right, we're booking tickets, you pay now. If you don't rock up, tough. That's your fault. You don't get it. Because so many people just drop out, you know. And it's like, you know, people around her age, I suppose, you know, a lot of her friends have got kids, young kids. And when we had young kids, get your stuff ready and get ready to go. Okay, there's always going to be that last minute emergency where a change of clothes is needed. But I don't know, kids of today just don't do that. You know, they just can't get that sorted out. But yeah.
I don't think it's just kids either. I do think it's the mobile phone culture, because it just feels like people make more vague arrangements now, whereas you used to have to be precise because you wouldn't be able to contact people. So you have to be there.
Yeah.
That's right. I'll see you next Saturday at midday at Hungry Jack's. And there was no other way of getting in contact with someone unless you had a home phone in the early days. Not every house had a home phone, so it was, I will see you then. And you know, as kids, I didn't think I had my first mobile phone until I was about probably in my mid-20s in London. You just didn't do it, and we only had that then for emergencies. But you know, you made an arrangement and you're going to be there, and that was it. So yes, communication's great, but it gives people a get out too much sometimes. So
it's punctuality and it's commitment. Because when you commit to doing something, well, it's keeping your word, going back to doing what you say you're going to do again. Not letting people down. For instance, with the Australia Day, the mastermind this week on Tuesday fell on Australia Day, and I hadn't realized that until Beth pointed it out to me, because I've had that much other stuff going on, and you kind of lose. I don't know, I find that period around Christmas, New Year, just after they kind of track of what day it is, you know, a little bit.
Thursday, isn't it?
So I was like, oh, Australia Day, hang on. Oh, damn. And then, so I thought, okay, well, I don't want to cancel because there'll be American people maybe on the call that might come in, and I didn't want to let anybody down. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll still hold the meeting. But then I waited till about lunchtime on the actual day, with the meeting due to start at 5:30, and nobody had registered or notified me that they were coming. So then I thought, okay, well, I'm not gonna like leave where we were going around to friends' houses and didn't want to come back just to host a meeting to sit there on my own and nobody turn up. So I thought, okay, safer then. Now I feel like I haven't let anybody down if nobody's said they're coming. So I cancelled it. But sure enough, there was one. She did get the message in time, luckily, because then I went, okay, hang on, I better double check on that, make sure the people I know who have attended previously, I'll send them a personal message just to make sure that they know that it's not on. And there was just one. It was Trudy, who was in India, and she got the message. But you know, she was like, "Well, I was going to go on that call, you know," and I was, oh, damn, you know, I didn't want to let anybody down. At least she did get my message beforehand, so it wasn't so bad. And she understood because it was Australia Day and we were partying. But yeah, I now hate that, the feeling of, especially if I'm in a team, you know, and if you don't turn up, you're letting the team down. So with volleyball, for instance, where we have to turn up to play, and you're going to leave them a player short, or you know, the worst was when people would pay on the night, and if they didn't turn up, you didn't get the money off them. So then the other people have to pay more to make up the money that you had to pay for the team.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my bugbears too, and so I've always do the opposite. Like for me, I don't want people letting me down, so I don't want to let anybody else down either. And then that way, hopefully, I'm getting back what I put out. You know, karmic sort of response.
And I always do it. You know, you get all those, you know, notifications on Facebook, and they're like, you know, are you going? Yes, no, maybe. And I often, like, my wife goes, "Why do you always just tick maybe?" And I'm going, you know, like, well, I'm not sure that I can make it at this stage. Like, if I can manage what else is going on, or, you know, whether I've got to go to work or whatever, then I'd prefer to say maybe than I'd say yes and not turn up.
Yeah.
We go, you know, I can always change it later on and say, yep, I've managed everything and I can come. But, you know, they're not, if they're looking at the maybe, they're like, okay, maybe you'll turn up.
Unless it's a ticketed event. But there's also that I get your point there. If you don't know, I would add to that a comment then that I will let you know, but at the moment I'm not sure of my roster or something like that.
Yeah. So I usually try and then contact them and say, look, you know, I'll try and get the day off or the time off or whatever, and then manage it. And if it's a ticketed event, then you're like, yep, I've got the time off, and, you know, here's my money, or I paid for my ticket, or, you know, like, you know, if they're looking for the money, I try and send it and say, yep, because here's my commitment. And if you're not going, say, I'm not going, they're not waiting for whether you know, whether they need to buy a ticket for you or not.
Yeah, for sure. But I particularly go back to Veronica's point about where people they'll sort of play the game of going, I'll wait and see if something better comes up, you know, and then I'll decide at the last minute which is the best of my options that I've got available. I think that's definitely a young culture now, isn't it? It's the people won't commit themselves until the very last minute, because just in case they miss out on something better. That's another one that's crept into our society.
Yeah. Whereas we found ourselves flat out leading up into Christmas going to multiple events on the same day. We said we'd go to that one, and we said we go to that one, and then we found out they're on the same day. So okay, fine, we'll go to this one early. Yeah. Go on to that one later on. Yeah. And maybe do something else. It got pretty mad.
Yeah, at least then we committed to going in an appearance. You haven't let anybody down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Cool.
And do you let someone know that you're gonna, you know, like, look, you know, we're rocking up at 1, we're gonna leave at 2, and call the other person and say, yeah, sorry, we can't make it until 2, and, you know, rock up?
Yeah, we did. We said, look, we've committed to this one. This one starts at 4:30. We'll be there at 5. The other one starts at 6, but we're going to turn up to that one at 7 or 7:30 in the evening, and that's what we did. So we said, right, we'll be there. These are the times, and we stuck pretty rigid to those times as well. bit of a cross-town travel as well. But,
so being a good communicator then is another aspect of character, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely communication. Being, I don't know, in the roles and the way that where I was brought up or what else, is be precise with the communication. You know, answer the question, not ask another question back. That drives me potty. Or don't ask a very open-ended, an open question. My brother's famous for it when we were kids. What do you want for breakfast? Toast or cereal? Yep. And Mum would go, man, every morning.
Troy quite a bit.
Oh, every morning.
What do you want for dinner? What is there? Or, you know,
yeah,
food.
So now it's a family joke. I just do it back to my brother. Yeah. What do you want, red or white? Yep, that'll do. But yeah, it's just
usual.
usual. So he goes to the beer fridge instead. Yeah.
Is there anything you particularly want me to buy at the supermarket? Oh yeah, whatever.
What do you fancy for dinner? Not what we had last night. Yeah, but don't get that. Oh, that's what I bought. Okay.
All right. So here's another question then. Who do you most admire currently or historically who exemplifies these traits that we've been talking about? And or perhaps who has been a strong character in your life and why?
Can I just put it out there and say no world political leaders?
Yeah,
apart from Jacinda Ardern. Sorry.
I'd concur with that one. I like her.
Yeah, I like her. And Merkel. My father and my father-in-law. In different ways. Both very full of integrity. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I've done. And you know, obviously you know my father for a lot longer than I know my father-in-law. But I worked closely with my father-in-law when I was in the UK, and he had a very strong, still does have a strong influence on me, on the way that and I hope that that's coming down to to my son as well and my daughter. So yeah, it's just do as this is what I'm said I'm going to do, and this is the reason why, and we'll back it up and do it all the time. And I fell foul of my father-in-law once when I was running the cricket team and we had to get the team together. And I think on a Friday night I had 8. Saturday morning we were getting in the car driving off to France, and I said, we've only got 8. He said, well, who have you called? I said, I just called those people. He said, no, who have you called? And I'm running around trying to find my passport. And I thought I'd really let him down then, and yeah, it didn't happen again. That's for sure. There was no cross words, but I just felt as I got into the car driving off, getting to the ferry to go to France for the day, that I'd really let him down. Denise went, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, so
I think those are great examples, and it does show you definitely inherited your father and father-in-law's good character. And I'm sure you're
going to hopefully not too soon. My father's in early stages of dementia, and the filter has started to disappear, what he says and what he does. So I just keep looking at Denise and go, that could be me. Hopefully not too. Dad's 80. Dad's 86.
I'm sure I haven't seen any signs of dementia in you yet, Glenn. So you remembered to turn up this morning, so that's a good sign.
I made a point. I was up at 4:30 this morning.
Oh my God.
Doing an airport
you
run.
Didn't have to be here that early. They called in the start till 7:30.
No, beautiful.
I made sure.
A lot of preparation, Glenn.
Still didn't work, did it? I'll get that in there first. No, I made sure that I was going to be back here for this one because I said I was going to be here. So.
Cool.
Well, the people that I'm thinking of that I admire for their character, certainly not family, sorry, but there's Gary, there's my best friend Deanna, and Michael Franti, and it's actually none of the, well, they have basically these characteristics that we're talking about here, but the big one with all of them is that they can talk to anybody about anything and be interested and curious and involve them and involve anybody in a conversation.
Great.
Mm.
Was it Rudyard Kipling's poem, that one about you can talk with, I'll see if I can find it. You carry on, Veronica, carry on. I'll find it.
Did you say Michael Franti?
Yes.
Why does that name ring a bell with me?
He's an American. He used to be a rapper. Now he's mainly a musician, but he's also got a retreat in Bali called Soulshine.
Was he part of Spearhead?
Yes, Spearhead. Michael Franti and Spearhead.
That's why.
Yes.
Fremantle Blues and Roots.
Yes.
Yes. Ah, right. Okay.
Yes.
Been a while.
Yeah, the first time I saw him, he was in Kings Park. It was his first trip to WA. It might have been his first trip to Australia, and he was performing in Kings Park near the pond, wherever that was. And it was an amazing show, and it went for 3 hours and non-stop. And at the end of it, he says, make sure you pick up all your rubbish. The ducks don't like the rubbish. And at the end of the show, he got off stage and he was picking up rubbish. And the next time I saw him, he had only just got in like 3 hours before. And he was telling stories of the Aboriginal culture and the people that the Aboriginals that he'd met. And he knew more about the Perth First people than most of us did, with just that small little window of time that he had to go exploring.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's certainly one of the traits of great statesmen as well, around the world, isn't it? When you think back historically.
Yeah.
And Nelson Mandela, for me, jumps out as one of those kind of people where he could talk to anybody about anything, and he just had that sort of Zen feeling about him. I suppose 26 years in a prison will do that for you. I don't know, but it's incredible to think about that, really.
Mm. And now that you said that, Veronica, I'm thinking back to and what Tony said about statesmen. Like, you know, some of the older guys that I came across in the UK in work, but mainly in sport. Some of the old flat fellas that used to play cricket with us, you know, our wicketkeeper was 85 when he retired, but he was also the groundsman. And he used to talk to us about our ground was down near Biggin Hill in Kent, which was a RAF base.
I've been there.
More. Yeah, so we were in Bracey Chart, Boys Hill. It was one of the highest grounds in Kent. But the guys used to lay there with their guns, taking pot shots at the Germans as they flew over the top, mainly to protect the pitch. That's what they used to say. But some of the older guys that we used to play with, they were fantastic. Really, really lovely old fellas, lovely statesmen, students, scholars of the game, plus all that history that they brought with them, you know, living around the area. There's people like that, and they could talk to anybody. As you know, it's what Tony said. They just be able to, and Veronica said, be able to talk to anybody about anything, and not come across as sort of righteous or anything like that. Yeah. Interesting.
My best friend, I've known her since high school, even though I didn't actually go to high school. I went through correspondence, but we met on the school camp. And she, even then at the age of 17, she just had this incredible character where she could walk into any place, any bar, any place at all, know no one, and walking out knowing everybody. And she could talk to someone that you've known all your life, and she will find out things that you never knew.
Wow.
That's being interested in people, isn't
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another great trait to add in. And it's genuine interest as well. It's not something that's put on.
Yeah, she's not trying to find things out. She's not fishing. It's just that people feel comfortable talking to her.
No agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good one. That's a very good one. Thank you for that. Stanley, got anyone that springs to mind for you?
Not really. I was kind of thinking, trying to think of people that fitted into the character, not just good people. But no one kind of came up for mine that I could think of. I thought of lots of people, but I couldn't think of why. I was just thinking, I could just randomly put some names out there. But
there's one that I listen to a lot while you're thinking, and it's his values that really resonate with me, and it's Jim Rohn. I can listen to Jim Rohn recordings all day, and I never get tired of him, because I just find he's just got this manner about him that he just oozes authenticity, and I think that's a big trait for me. What you see is what you get, and he is, as he says, the farm boy from Idaho, but he was a fantastic speaker. He just nailed it in terms of talking about values and integrity, and why you owe it to yourself to try to be the best you that you can be, and to your family. So yeah, he's one that I've never found fault with, or listened to a recording and go, well, that's a load of rubbish. Everything he says just seems to be right as far as I'm concerned. In business, I would say, I know there are people that don't like him, or have perhaps, in business, you can always find somebody to give you the opposite story about, what happened, because, in business, you're going to fire people, you're going to have fallouts with people, and that's Richard Branson. But because of his drive to improve things for people. Now, I've also read a book that wasn't written by him or by his PR machine, and it was a bit of a nasty book, actually. It was a biography that was done by a guy called Tim Bauer about Branson, and I think what he did is he went and interviewed all the people that Branson had ever fallen out with, or fired, or been foul of a deal of Richard Branson's or something, and just put this catalogue of nastiness together that absolutely slated the guy. It was really interesting as an exercise, how you could spin a complete character assassination of somebody if you wanted to do that. And I mean, we've seen it happen in politics and so on, particularly recently, where the focus is on how can I destroy that person's reputation or character so that the other candidate can benefit, which is a particularly horrible trait, I think, that's crept into modern day politics. I mean, it's always been there, because it's humans' thirst for power that stimulates that. But think back to the Roman days and Julius Caesar getting stabbed in the back and all that. It happens, but I think it's just a particularly nasty trait that's come in. Seems to have been accentuated by social media as well. It's so easy to slag people off, and these keyboard warriors that go on and just ooze nastiness at people for no other reason than they can, and it makes them feel better about their own life to slag somebody else off, which is one of the sad traits. So have you thought of anyone else?
And it's so easy to do when you're on social media. I deal with a lot of self-defense guys from around the world, so sometimes we're having a whole conversation about what technique do you use when someone chokes you and stuff like that, and then someone will completely just go, oh, we do this, and you're thinking, well, we've disproven this technique about 20 times, and then you're like, okay, we'll demonstrate it, and they're like, oh no, I can't do that. Or they're just like complete rubbish, and you're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're in a group of people who are some of the world's best experts, but you're not really listening to what they're saying. You're just like running your own agenda, where you should be shutting up and saying, I like that. And then even some of the techniques that I knew of, where some of them are talking about the finer details of making it work, and we always have that kind of 80% sort of thing. Techniques will work 80% of the time, and it's a lot of it's when you run into stuff afterwards, what do you do? How do you get around it? But people are all just in there like, we'll do this, and you know, it's a lot of armchair, you know, like, hey, I could have kicked the goal from there, and you're like, well, where's your discipline and your practice? And, you know, put your money where your mouth is to stay. You know, why aren't you a international football star then, out on the pitch kicking the goals, if you can do it better than they can?
Yeah, so I like to show up with a beginner's mindset to these things, like anything. And it was really demonstrated for me in dancing, because I wasn't dancing for a little while, and then I went back to classes to help out, and the students didn't know who I was. And, you know, this guy was saying, yo, you need to do this and this and this. It's like, oh yeah, okay. I didn't say anything. But 3 weeks into class, he's like, is that right? Am I doing that right? You don't need to say anything. You just, you know. And I still learn things from, you know, it doesn't matter how far I think I've gone. If I go with a beginner's mindset, I'm always going to pick up something new.
Yeah, we had it the other day at work, where the old manager, so they were the owners that have now sold, and she's stayed on as the manager to help out and stuff, knowing lots of stuff, like, you know, how to run the kitchen. And the owners have brought in their, like, sister-in-law with, she's got 0 people skills in a people skills job. And I walked in at like 9:45, and they're in the kitchen, and she's teaching her how to run the coffee machine and how to, you know, run the fryers and all sorts of stuff. And you can just see there's a whole argument there. And she's like, Sharon, the manager, she goes, I just don't like being treated like a dickhead. But she wouldn't, like, if she, yeah, and it was literally like, and she goes, got to the stage about, I don't know, about 11 o'clock. She says, I'm just going to ring the boss and say I'm going home early because I just can't deal with it. And it was literally like, I was watching it just going, nah, you're not listening to what the person's saying. You're not even trying to be with a beginner's mind. You're just going, I know better. Like, well, you don't really, because you have no idea how to run the kitchen.
Yeah. So I guess the beginner's mindset's about being humble as well, and going, you know, just respecting that if someone's done a job for a while, I think they might have something useful to teach me.
Yes. So humility, I think that's a great trait. Thanks, Veronica, for bringing that up. And so Stan, definitely don't treat people like dickheads. That's a very good one too.
But it was, so the manager's trying to teach her, and she was just like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. And you're like, well, you don't, because the reason you're here is to learn how to run the kitchen. You know, and like, she's been running it for like I've been there like 14 years, and she was before that, so she's got 17 years of experience of running the place. And you just like, maybe you could shut up and just listen for a second.
That's a very good point from both.
Do it your own way later on, but at the moment, learn.
Everyone has, my father say, everyone has something to teach you, but you've got to be willing to be open to that, be willing to listen.
It's along with that, never be the smartest person in the room, isn't it?
Well, that's one of Richard Branson's philosophies too, which I like about him. Yeah. And I get that impression that he's one of those people who can talk to anybody about anything. But, you know, I've never actually met him, so I'm going by what I've seen, videos, books, and so on. So I would add something else to this list that we've come up with. I know we're coming up for time, so I'm mindful of that. Encourage or inspire. So I've made it one of my mantras to be on the lookout for where I can encourage people. And for me, it's things like you get good service in a shop, you know, or even, you know, the checkout girl, to be nice, to be kind to people, and to try to say something that's going to leave them a little better than you found them. So if somebody is, you know, cheerful and smiley and helpful, I'll acknowledge that. I'll say, oh, thanks so much for being helpful today. You know, I really appreciate that. Just because those interactions, those daily little interactions, are what can make a difference to somebody's day. You know, somebody could be having a really tough time, and your few words of encouragement or smile or, you know, thanking them can just really set them off, you know, in a different path and make them have a happier day. And I know, you know, being in retail for years myself, it seemed for, you know, a lot of the time that you would get, the most of what you would get during the day would be all the people whinging about stuff and not happy about things, and, you know, something to complain about. Particularly as a manager, I used to get called to the service desk a lot for, you know, for refunds and this product's no good, and you get people who were so angry about a lot of stuff, you know, and they just wanted to take it out on someone and just be horrible. So when you get people who are actually genuinely nice to you, it's just such a welcome difference.
Yeah, I heard on the radio yesterday, I think it was one of the afternoon drive time shows, that it might have been Carrie Bickmore saying that her mum, they went shopping just before Christmas, leading up probably Christmas Eve, I think, and they were in their local Woolies, and her mum had disappeared. She went, oh God, where's she gone now? And she was going around the store thanking every shop assistant in the store for what they'd done. She said, I haven't interacted with you personally, but you've kept everything, you've kept all the shelves. And she went around to every person in the store that worked in that store, saying thank you for what they'd done in the lead up to Christmas.
She must have always been late for everything then, surely.
Imagine that. Come on, Mum. Yeah, move on. Get a move on. And people were phoning in and saying, yeah, we do this and we do this. Yeah, but you're right. If you work in retail, and you know, part of our business is retail. Obviously, we've got people coming in, and you do get the grumpy ones that just have got nothing good to say, you think, to anybody, you know, for no particular reason. So yeah, it's quite.
And you wonder what they're going to attract into their life too.
Yeah.
You know, if they're going around being horrible to people deliberately, just being obnoxious, but then you think, well, what's caused that? Why are they like that? Yeah,
that's where I've learned over the last 10 years or so, is there's a reason that guy just went from the far right-hand lane on the Mitchell Freeway to Vincent Street in no time at all. He's been distracted. He doesn't know where he is. He's running late. Something's gone on this morning at home, or I don't know. But you go, he's done it for a reason. Let's just hope he doesn't hurt himself or anybody else on the way while he's doing it. So
yeah,
that's after I screamed at him, of course.
So would you add to your list then not to be judgmental of people?
Definitely, definitely.
Yep.
And I think one of the things with communication, it needs to be consistent communication. Like, you know, like if somebody gives you double messages all the time, you're like, don't know where you're up to.
Yeah, I've had that recently with the integrity of a certain company, where we do it this way, and it's all integrity, and that's why we're in the business. And then there was a complete 180 on something. So yeah, it's changed my mind about the way that business works, that's for sure, and certain people in it.
Yeah.
You go, and why they changed their mind? Because the particular circumstances was fueled by money. I'll just leave it there.
Yes, when people are struggling financially, that can certainly impact on their priorities, can't it? And the way they interact with other people and so on.
Yep.
So Jim Rohn would approach that as that they're passing their problem on to you.
Yep.
You don't need to take it. You can just hand it back. With a smile. Thank you very much. You can keep that.
Yeah. Yes, that's something I became adept at in retail with dealing with complaints is, you know, because you have to be polite to the customer, but there's ways of being polite and not putting up with their nonsense as well.
Wouldn't it be nice within retail or in the real world to have like a turn off comments or a block button? Start off commenting now. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it? See you later.
Have a soundproof room. It's going, just step in here and we can discuss that.
This
Yeah,
is the cone of silence.
Well, I remember at my backpackers, there was a guy who got off his head on drugs and was wanting to fight me for, you know, because he was just being in that sort of mood where he was wanting to have a go at everybody. And I said, okay, yeah, well, that's fine, no problem, we'll have a fight. I said, but we won't do it in here because it's going to be, you know, make a mess and all that. Let's go out the front. So I showed him out through the front door and I just promptly locked it behind him. Left him to have a fight on his own on the front lawn, which he did. He punched the telegraph pole and broke his hand. So
nice work, yeah. Oh, yeah, you want to take us to the car park? Yeah, I'll see you in 5 minutes' time.
yeah.
That's how they've forgotten. Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of the ultimate of not buying into somebody's nonsense, you know.
Yeah. There is that, yeah, not buying into it, for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't have to buy into people's, not, you know, that whatever's going on with them doesn't have to impact on your world. You can let it go and you can choose not to be involved in that and not let it affect you. And sometimes it's tough because if none of us like being criticized or, you know, someone having a go at you unfairly, you know, you feel the need to defend yourself, but sometimes it's just not worth the effort because you're not going to change that person's opinion necessarily anyway. So who's more stupid, the person who's being stupid and aggressive and unnecessarily obnoxious, or the person who tries to change the mind of someone who's like that? You know, it's not really going to help you much, is it? Because you're not going to win that one. So sometimes
just leave them hanging.
Don't argue with an idiot. They've got more experience than you.
Well, thank you. That's a great way to close the meeting, I think, today. So,
Walk into that one.
I love that one. I'm so stealing that.
we do like to have fun on our meetings, and these ain't no bullshit thing. So we've had today, just to summarize, we've had some really good discussion. Thanks, guys. So do what you say you're going to do your best, respect you people, the environment, everyone around you, be honest, show integrity, punctuality, commitment, authenticity, encouragement, inspiration, be a good communicator, be genuinely interested in people. Don't treat people like dickheads. Good one there, Stan. Beginner's mindset, being humble, be kind, try not to be judgmental of people, and be consistent. So there you go. What a list. We've got something to live up to for the rest of the week, haven't we?
Just the week, okay.
The rest of our lives. All right. Well, that's awesome. Alrighty. Well, I think, Stan, are you coming tomorrow? I couldn't remember.
No,
maybe.
I'm not Tony.
Okay. Well,
waiting for a better offer.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the envelope that you passed me yesterday. I haven't been aware of what's in there exactly yet, but I know there was something. So thank you for that. And guys,
I'm pretty sure you've got it because it was to help pay for your guitar.
Good on you. Well, thank you so much.
You have to pay Joe so that you can keep your guitar.
Just finish with the dad joke. No
over your head as you be an idiot.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that, and I look forward to catching up with you guys over the weekend, and we will see you all again on the next mastermind soon.
All right, guys.
Friday.
I'll
see you
send your link, V. Send your link.
I'll send the link. Thank you.
Well,
come back and play on Wednesday.
That poem was Rudyard Kipling. If.
Oh, okay. I'll have a look.
About keeping the do not lose the common touch.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
All right. Cheers,
Okay.
guys.
Go.
Bye.
See ya.